Welcome back to another titillating episode of Comic Watchers, brought to you by Comic Watch. Comic Watch is your source for all your comics and media news and reviews written by fans for fans. Don't forget to subscribe and follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Spread the word that we're coming for the clickbait sites. It's our time now. I'm your host, Cody, coming to you from Oahu, and we'd like to welcome back Mr. Brian Durbridge, Derbs, finally returning from his hiatus. And now is a chance for the rest of the crew to introduce themselves.
I'm Derbs.
Well, I guess I just pulled the camera away from Derbs. I'm John Jack. Welcome back, Derbs. We're so happy to have you. We missed you.
Welcome back, Derby. I am Brian from Tucson, Arizona. You can check me out at Twitter and Instagram at Comic Watch Brian and Facebook. You can also check out my website, superheroesbookclub.com. All right, Matt, go ahead and bring it in.
Welcome back, Derbs. And I have a question for Cody. Must we be titillating? Is this a new thing we're trying? Okay.
I try to do something different every week because otherwise it's really boring.
I just wanted to make sure. I wasn't sure if I was dressed for the occasion. Anyway, welcome back, Derbs. We're glad to have you.
Thanks, Matt. And
Hello,
I mean,
Internet.
we're always titillated.
Ooh.
What was that, Matt?
Ooh.
Oh.
Ooh.
We are at all ages show. Believe it or not, we kind of are.
If you've made it this far, we do apologize. We're off to a just absolute fire start this week. We got a great episode coming to you guys, and we're going to kick it off with news from Brian.
Nudes.
Nudes from Brian.
Nudes from Brian.
That's what I said.
He did say it would be titillating.
I'm trying. All right. So I do have some news. First off, okay, let me break for a second. I was totally not prepared for the news. For some reason, I forgot that I had news, and now I guess I'm sending out nudes. Okay. So Marvel Runaways gets renewed for a season 3 on, of course, Hulu. Trini Howard signs exclusively with Marvel and brings us a Death's Head. I'm not familiar with this series. Is anybody kind of familiar with it?
Yeah.
Hell yes.
Property from the early 90s. It's crazy, over the top, totally metal. Just big, goofy fun in a very 90s way. And I think he's going to rock out in this iteration, at least from the promo material that I saw. I don't know.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, I can't imagine anything to make this book not highly entertaining. Like, it's definitely going to be worth checking out. And she's got a great, comics voice. So I'm excited.
All right. Last week, we talked about Jonathan Hickman returning to Marvel. This week, he announced that we're having 2 big X titles, one being House of X and Power of X. And then there's some news from the big C2E2 that was in Chicago. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm doing this by memory. So this dude, Stephen Bowles, stole over $9,000 of merchandise from vendors and was finally arrested. You're an asshole, dude. You're just an asshole. These artists, these writers, comic books, this is how they make their living, and you try to steal that, you're just an asshole. Apparently, we're not actually an all-ages show. You probably should be over 18 at this point.
We can do the periodic table of nerds hashtag fuck this guy.
Yeah.
That is the periodic table of nerds way.
Yes, exactly. A New Mutants cast, Massey Williams, states that the reshoots never happened as they were scheduled to, and the cast is kind of we don't know if it's even going to be released. So at this point, just release it on Hulu, let it be done with. I mean, because they put a lot of work into it, so I'd like to see them be at least released. But am I expecting anything from it? No. So let's just send it to DVD or video or Amazon Prime. Hell, put it on Netflix. I don't care. Just release it.
We are firmly in the Roger Corman Fantastic Four film mode with New Mutants now. This is going to become an instant cult classic once somebody finds it and puts it on YouTube.
Right. Or the movie, is it as bad as Generation X from the 90s movie? It can't be that bad. If it is, oh my God, just put it on YouTube. I don't care what happens. Just put that on YouTube. That is actually one of my favorite movies growing up because there was no superhero. I mean, kind of, but there wasn't any X-Men related at that time. So I liked it. I was like, oh, Jubilee doesn't look anything like, none of the characters look like anybody, but it was cool. There was something X-Men related on TV. But now I think we're a little spoiled because we see all these, you know, big budget, really good movies. So I think that kind of takes some of the nostalgic away from really bad, campy superhero ones. So either way, that's all I have for news this week.
Did anybody have any stray news stories before we jump into featured books? No news. No news is good news. All right. So let's kick it off. I didn't come up with a particular order today, so I'm just going to kick it right to JJ for our first Spotlight book.
And our first Spotlight book is going to be Spider-Man Life Story, written by Chip Zdarsky, with art by pencils by Mark Bagley, inks by John Dell, colors by Frank Armada, and letters by VC's Travis Lanham. So, Spider-Man Life Story is going to be a updated, through the decades story of Peter Parker's life, aging in real time or semi-real time without the, sliding Marvel timescale nonsense. And so obviously it starts in the 60s. We start off 4 years into Spider-Man's career, which would put us in 1966, making Peter Parker 19 years old. And we have basically an updated Lee / Romita era tale featuring Norman Osborn during Peter's college years. So this would put us right around Spider-Man 45-ish. We open on Peter going into college, having stopped Mysterio, who we don't see in this issue, but he's mentioned several times. Peter meets up with Gwen Stacy. I was delighted to see a moment where Peter and Gwen have a moment, and then it's quickly squashed by Professor Warren, who about 10 years later, in the mid-70s, is revealed to be the Jackal, who cloned Peter and Gwen, and was revealed to have been in love with Gwen, and repeatedly over the next 40 years clones Gwen, various iterations of a 19-year-old girl to do all kinds of creepy stuff with as a 50-year-old college professor. pretty messed up stuff. But I loved the Peter and Gwen touch hands and lock eyes, and he's like, "Hey, you two!" He immediately jumps their crap. Oh man, that was hilarious. But then we go to Flash Thompson's going away party as Flash has joined the military during Vietnam, which is a thing that did happen in the comics. And I love that Peter kind of jumps on Flash because in his high school years during the Ditko issues, Peter was really bookish and pretty, meek, and but he started to kind of come out into his own, and by the time he was in high school, he was kind of a happening dude. Wearing the open collar shirts and the necklaces and the vests and stuff. I did really like the art in this. Felt like a updated kind of like Romita / Gil Kane kind of era, which is the late 60s Spider-Man after Romita left, right around issue 70. But it felt like a updated version. The lingo and stuff did feel like 60s era Spider-Man, but it didn't have any of that Lee era denseness that Stan Lee never saw a comic panel he didn't want to stick 300 words in and make you read every one of them. He wanted you to read, not to look. Maybe comics were less of a visual medium in his eyes. But so Peter jumps on Flash saying, "I didn't have the ability to stand up to you in high school, but now I'm gonna," and kind of tells him off. And then Gwen takes Peter aside and says, you shouldn't be doing this, Peter. Flash, this might be the last time we hang out with Flash. And so Peter has a bit of a moment with Flash, which is nice. They actually do kind of make amends in the original series after this period. So this was one of the last time Flash comes back from Vietnam, kind of a more grown-up man, more of an adult than he was previously in the series, which was pretty cool. Sorry. But he's taken aside by Norman Osborn under the guise of wanting to talk to him about science stuff. But then Norman Osborn does a complete 180 and says, you know, look around. And you look around and there are pumpkin bombs all over the bar. It's been booby trapped. And he says, I know your secret. Meet me out back in 5 minutes or I blow this whole place up. And he meets him out back, and it's revealed that Norman Osborn is the Green Goblin. One thing I did like in this issue was they didn't take a lot of the easy routes with some of the canon stuff that happened around this era. You know, like the infamous Norman Osborn hauling a maskless Peter from the Goblin Glider. They didn't do the Goblin Glider to the gut, which was much, much later anyway. And I did think it was interesting that they did diverge pretty heavily from Spider-Man canon right around here. Then they see on the TV that Iron Man's in Vietnam, and I liked that it gave us that feeling of synergy that Marvel was really good at around this era, because during this era there was actually an arc where Iron Man was in Vietnam. Probably in the Tales of Suspense, right around like issue 80 or so. I don't remember the exact issue, but and then we see Captain America, and I gotta say, Captain America steals the show in this issue. Like, I would read a miniseries of this era's Captain America. I would flat out, hands down, I would read that series. And you know, Peter asks him, you know, if he should go to Vietnam. Is he being irresponsible, having power and not doing all he can? And, you know, Cap kind of gives him some good advice and just says, you know, listen to what you think is right. You have a good moral compass. Do what you think you should do. And I thought that was great. I know I'm going a little long, but some other character moments that I really liked. I thought Jonah was pretty darn perfect for the era. He was always going on about how generous he was and being a total tightwad jerk. So Jonah was perfect. I liked Professor Warren, as I said. Green Goblin, I thought, was done well. I'm interested to see if they bring Norman back for the 70s or if they go the Harry Osborn as Goblin route, because Harry Osborn did become the Goblin towards the late 70s after Norman died, which was around 72-ish. The first time. He's not dead now, obviously. Nobody stays dead but Thunderbird. Okay, I can kick it over to someone else now, I think. How about Arby?
I was not expecting that. I actually really liked it. I know that Cody, or I don't know, somebody was like, it wasn't the greatest, but I like that it's taking it by decade to decade. Like, he aged like we do. I really, really enjoyed that aspect of it. I hate trying to figure out how old a character is when they came in the 50s or 60s. Like, it's so hard to figure out, like, how old is this individual? I mean, there's no reason why I need to know other than I want to know. Like, I like to think that they're growing older. I like to think that they're, like, I don't want to feel like I'm the only one aging. Maybe that's just me, I don't know. But I don't want to be, like, older than somebody who was, you know, being a superhero in the 60s. I really enjoyed it. I liked the art in it. There wasn't really too much for me to go off of because I don't know Spider-Man from back then. So for me, it was enjoyable. I really liked it. I'm looking forward to the next 6 issues. I'm looking forward to, you know, seeing the 70s, 80s, et cetera, et cetera. Matt, what did you think about it?
I really, really enjoy it. I love the concept because, as I read somewhere once, superheroes are perpetually in their second act. You know, Act 1 is the origin, and then literally everything else is the second act. We're never going to read the last Spider-Man story. We're never going to get the conclusion of Bruce Wayne's crusade on crime, et cetera, et cetera. So to completely check that out the window and say, let's look at what being Spider-Man would mean to somebody over the entire course of their life. How would it affect them? How would it impact them socially and personally, too? I think is a brilliant idea. And I'm kind of surprised nobody thought of it before, to be honest with you. Especially where Spider-Man is concerned, because he's the original everyman hero. And it just seems like that concept is tailor-made for Spidey. So having said that, I give all the props in the world to Chip Zdarsky. I feel like this issue fell just a little short of its own ambitions. Not that I'm saying it was bad. It's still extremely good. The reason I feel that way is the Green Goblin subplot kind of felt like it was tacked in there in order to have an action sequence with Spider-Man fighting someone familiar. And whereas I would have liked to have seen more Spidey interacting in some way, shape, or form with the Vietnam protests or something like that. But again, it's not bad. And the idea of J. Jonah Jameson being under investigation by the police for, having spider slayers built was awesome.
He had the Scorpion built too. He was up to some shady stuff way back then.
People forget J. Jonah Jameson has done some really shady and outright illegal things. So, but I really liked all the stuff with Flash Thompson going off to Vietnam. Keeping him around and involved as an ongoing character in Peter Parker's life past high school and college has always strained credibility a little bit for me. But we see them connect here in a way that gives meaning to their relationship. And I really like that, especially that moment where Gwen tells him, that you referenced to, JJ, we may never see him again. You need to come talk to him. That was a good, quietly powerful moment. And lastly, the art. Mark Bagley did an awesome job. He's one of my personal top 3 favorite artists of all time. I'll read any book with him in it or on the art. And what I liked about this, though, is that he tweaked his style so it didn't look like another issue of Ultimate Spider-Man, for example. He really did channel some Romita and Gil Kane energy from that late 60s era of Spider-Man. So kudos to him.
I did want to say I would be interested if going forward in the further decades, he also adopts the styles of other Spider artists like Ross Andrew was really big in the 70s, and in the 80s, obviously, we have McFarlane. And in the 90s, guess who? It's Bagley.
Yeah,
So I would love it if he evolves his style as the decades go forward. I can't say, obviously, at this point whether they're going to do that. Was that?
Is he drawing all 6 issues?
Maybe.
I thought it was a rotating artist.
Well, he was huge on Spidey in the 90s and in the 2000s.
Oh, so, absolutely. Absolutely.
So
he's one of the definitive artists of all time. I mean, period.
He's probably done more Spidey issues than anyone. He's done Spidey.
There's no probably about it. He actually has.
Yeah.
And you remember, on top of his 90s stuff, he did 111 consecutive issues of Ultimate Spider-Man as well.
Yeah, totally.
He's got a record there.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, that was fine. I absolutely loved this comic. Like I said, I think, if I can damn it with a little bit of faint praise here, it just fell slightly short of maybe just what I was expecting from it or hoping for. I was maybe looking a little too hard at it to be the next Marvels. Which, that's nearly impossible. So anyway, that's it for me. Hey, let's hear from our Lost Friend. Derbs, what you got, man?
That I'm found. So yeah, it was a really interesting period piece, kind of thought experiment. I thought that I'm not really well versed in classic Spidey, and there's a lot of notes in this comic that was like, oh, this really does remind me of Raimi's first Spider-Man movie. Those moments with the Osborns. But I thought overall it was really entertaining. I'm really interested in that era, personally, just historically. So it's actually really, really fun to see, and not fun, but just really interesting to see how these characters are interacting with their actual roots. I just thought that was really cool. Chip Zdarsky is on my radar. His current Daredevil run is getting hot and heavy, and I'm hoping that he goes in the direction he should be going with it. And if he does, he's going to be a personal hero of mine. But when I saw he was writing this one, I was just like, okay, this is probably going to be pretty good. So, but yeah, that's all I've got.
All right, so I guess it falls to me to be the anchor and the naysayer. I thought this was a fine book, but I didn't think it was as good as it was billed, as it was hyped, or as it's being received. And maybe that's just me, but there's something about conceptually, I'm interested. Like Matt said, I've seen this done a couple of times before with heroes aging in real time. Nothing that I can quite place off the top of my head now that I'm put on the spot, but I've seen it before, or at least I've thought about it before, and it's an interesting concept, but it also kind of guts the whole foundation of superheroes as the American mythology, which I take fairly seriously, and a lot of my academic study, like, this is something that I'm very interested in, very invested in. So I'm interested to see how it executes and how it plays out over 6 issues. It is Bagley overall 6 issues. I was looking while y'all were talking. But the way that it was executed, I felt like you could swap out every instance of saying Vietnam for Iraq, for Kuwait, for any other place we've been since Vietnam, with all the same kind of moral conundrums, political questions. And it would read exactly the same. Like, there was nothing particularly 60s about this, other than, like JJ pointed out, like the nods to Professor Warren, and Gwen being present, and Norman finally discovering that he's Spider-Man. Like, it felt flat to me in the writing. I thought, Bagley's art was great. He did a really, really good job of channeling Ramita, especially. Like, his Ramita aping was incredible. Very, very well done. And, Chip Zdarsky is a great writer. He really is. So I expected the execution to be where I expected the execution to be. And it came out well below where I thought that mark was going to fall. Like Matt pointed out, that moment with Flash, finding out that, Spidey is the inspiration for Flash to go was fantastic. I thought everything with Cap was brilliant, and I don't see how they can carry that through. If they're shifting decades, right? That ends in 1967 with Cap basically standing there in the jungles in Nam saying, come get me then. What? And then you're going to jump forward to the 70s. Like, that's a story that has to be told. That's a story that needs not only be told, but it needs, like, its own, like JJ said, its own miniseries. Like, this is a brilliant idea. And I mean, Cap, as far as I know, and I've read a lot of Cap in my life, never really engaged. Cap Comics never engaged with Vietnam. So, I mean, this is something that I've wanted my whole life. And he's just going to tease it to me and then pull the rug out from underneath me and shift, boom, 70s disco time.
See, I haven't really researched the book at all. You guys kind of ambushed me with it. But I thought, I guess my thought was the ending was where it really felt Vietnam-y, right? I mean, that was pretty. We're not getting any more?
Each issue is supposed to be a decade.
Oh.
So we probably still will get some Vietnam, but we're going to have a gap.
Yeah.
Like at the very least, we're gonna have a 3-year gap in theory if it's played out the way it's supposed to. Like next issue is supposed to be 70s, 80s, 90s,
All right.
up to present day, which presumably will be, you know, number 6 will be when we see Peter die, which I'm not looking forward to.
But this issue started in '66, so there's nothing to say it's not going to start in like '74. When I don't remember exactly when Vietnam wrapped up, but early
76
'70s.
or so.
Okay, yeah, I figured you'd know. So I mean, there is plenty of opportunity, even if it starts in like '75 or something, for them to follow that thread through a little bit, or who
Sure.
knows? Maybe they have a whole series of these things planned, which would be pretty darn cool.
Right. Right.
I
Totally
love
agree.
the concept of it. Sorry, I wasn't trying to. I'm
No, it's cool. No.
popping in on everybody.
Absolutely. I mean, and you're probably our most well-read Spider-Man person here. So I mean, like, yeah, I would expect you to jump in because there are things in your knowledge that I don't have. Like I've read, you know, those first 100 issues, but I read them as a kid, so you know, collected and things like that. So I don't remember everything.
I've read issue 21 through 124 probably 20 times.
Nice. Yes.
They were like staples of my childhood. I had the
Right.
essential editions and read them constantly. Like colored them in with crayons as a kid, because essential editions are in black and white newsprint.
Right. So yeah, it's not to blast the book. I'm not trying to beat it up or anything. It fell short of where I thought it was going to be. But it was good. It was good. Like there's a lot of crap out there, and this wasn't in the crap pile. Like this is something that I will continue to read. I'm looking forward to continuing to read. I just had, you know, some gripes, some little things here and there. Any final thoughts on Life Story? So why don't we move on to Invisible Kingdom? I imagine this will be a fairly short discussion. Invisible Kingdom #1 dropped from Dark Horse. This is from G. Willow Wilson and art by Christian Ward. So we got yet another in a long trend of kind of sci-fi, alt future narratives here. That's, you know, you've got two distinct stories. One is some errand boys from some kind of big giant corporation called Lux who are running late on their delivery and get stranded and everything goes wrong. They're stuck on a moon trying to figure out a way off to make their delivery. And you've also got a Terran-bound city that seems to be kind of like the Citadel in Game of Thrones, where, you know, you've got this like massive organized religion hub, and these people are coming there to be nuns, None, not Nuns, nuns, as some kind of emissary for whatever this intergalactic religious base is, and it's full of its own divisiveness. And the focus is specifically on one new initiate. I don't remember her name. Maybe not her. I don't know. She comes from a race with like 4 different sexes. She's a down. I don't know what that means. 7, 6, whatever it is. She's a down, and apparently being able to identify that is a pretty big deal for her people. So that's cool. Willow Wilson is a great writer who I think sometimes gets defeated by herself. Like she has these grand ideas, but sometimes things get lost in the details. I thought the art in this was gorgeous, like absolutely beautiful, but the story itself felt a little bit too fragmented. I think it was Matt who said earlier, like it kind of reminded him a little bit of Saga in the way that it does the world building in the beginning, but it does it without giving you a strong bond to the characters. And that is where Saga excels in this genre of, you know, sci-fi fantasy. And this, to me, it fell flat. I'll probably read the first couple issues just to see where it goes. Like I'm a big fan of this genre in comics specifically, but I don't know. It was a thing, and I read it, and it's in the stores now. So You know, if it sounds like it's your kind of thing, you know, by all means, go get it. It's beautiful. Like, the art is definitely worth the price of admission. The story, jury's out. It could turn into something fantastic. It's just not there with the first issue. Gerbs.
So it kind of feels like a sci-fi anthology type of thing to me. There's, you know, we're in the future. Amazon still exists, and we're still intergalactic Amazon is a thing. And I don't know. There's just kind of a lot of stuff that we've seen before, and I think that was my biggest problem with it. I'm not really seeing anything new. I feel like I'm kind of reading some side story in a old Star Wars novel about stuff going on planets that have nothing to do with the Force, or maybe something tangential to it. I don't know. It just didn't. I honestly just kind of felt bored, and that's pretty rare. I usually get into something. What was the name of that indie book that we read a couple episodes, like probably the last
Infinite Dark.
Yeah, I found that one more interesting, actually, than this. Yeah, I know. I felt the art was colorful. I don't know if it's beautiful. It felt kind of muddy to me. It was fine. I didn't think it was ugly. I just wasn't my thing, I guess. I didn't stare at it and just was in awe. I just was like, okay, it's more like a painting than a drawing, but I didn't really, but I've seen that done better, which is okay. David Mack. But it was fine. I guess that's how I feel about this issue, and like you said, it can open up. It has potential, but for right now, it's okay. Brian, what you got for me?
It is pretty. That's all I have. No, I'm just kidding. So, for our first episode, wait, hold on. So there's potential there. I think that we can all agree that there's a lot of potential in the book itself. But in order for me to pick up the second one, something from the first issue has to grab me. Maybe it will be better read in a graphic novel or whatever, or a trade paperback. But if you're just reading it for the first issue, no, it's not. I'm not going to actually pick up the second at all. Like, it just wasn't for me. I just don't think that there was anything interesting that wanted me to be saved, I guess. But do I think that there is potential? Yes. I think that she's a great writer. I think the art was good. I think it was really, really pretty. I like how the pink tones are used throughout the book. So if you're an art fan, this may be something that you would like. For me, the book is not for me. So hopefully we won't come back and review it after the series ends, because I don't really want to go through the 6 issues or whatnot. But knowing Cody, he'll probably make me do it just because I said it now. JJ, what did you think of it?
It was fine. I thought it was pretty. Like, the art was, like you guys said, really, really good. But it was beautiful art in the way that, like, when they used to do old westerns and they'd put up the fake walls to make the town, it was like I didn't feel any depth to the story whatsoever. I can already pretty solidly guess what's going to happen is their missing cargo box is going to be someone laundering money through the religion, and they didn't crash on the moon by accident. It was sabotage. I've read so many Alien comics. This is an alien story pretending to be a story about a cult or something. Everyone talks like a 14-year-old girl for some reason, and that's dumb. Why? We're in space. Everybody talks like a 14-year-old girl. You can't give me an accent. You can't give me some fake words. You can't give me some nonsense fake future people. Also, Cody, you said alternate future. All potential futures are alternate futures. Um, um, some other things I wrote down. The story felt very hollow. That's the word I'm going to use, hollow. I didn't feel very interested in it at all. Just oh, something I had a random thought when I was reading it. If everyone's wearing a blindfold, how can they tell that you're wearing a blindfold? I could be king of the blind people. Wow, you're so good at cooking. Yeah, I know. I can't see anything. I guess it's all on the honor system. We all know where I land on that one. So I don't know. I'm not reading any more of this. If we do the whole mini on a later ish episode or something, I'll read it. I probably won't like it then either. Nothing I've read up to now makes me want to continue this story. I hear good things about G. Willow Wilson, but I have yet to read anything from her that I really liked. That's not an insult. It's just I have not read Kamala Khan, Miss Marvel, though, which I do hear is excellent and I will read someday. I've heard nothing but unfortunate things about her Wonder Woman, and maybe this too. There's nobody talking about it, which is also usually a sign. Something like this, often you'll hear somebody somewhere raving about how great it is. I don't even see like Glenn and Glenn, who we know, saying things, and Glenn's usually pretty hip on books like this. Matt, what did you think?
So I'll start by saying that I can't believe I'm the first one to say that I was thinking about Futurama when I first started reading it, because they're delivering things in space, so why the hell not? I'm pretty much right in line with you guys. The characterization wasn't there, like, at all, and I'm a character first guy. That's always the first thing I look at when I read something, as to whether or not it speaks to me, and it wasn't. I think the girl that went to join the religion's name was Vess, and that's like literally all I really remember about her, which is never a good sign. I can't remember the names of any of the people from the delivery ship. That's not good.
I can't even remember what color her skin was. There were like 5 different skin colors. It doesn't matter. None of it matters. Purple. Okay.
No,
could have been blue?
Purple.
Orange. It doesn't matter. It's dumb.
Tangerine. But I mean, and it's frustrating because you read this and there were some really interesting ideas. Like, I like this idea of the religion putting so much emphasis on the stripping of identification and personality, and we're down to referring to them as nuns, Nones. Like, that's potentially a big statement. It's also potentially a really pretentious high schoolish statement about religion, but I like.
Yeah, it sounds like.
What?
Yeah, it does. Sorry, but yeah, it does sound like kind of pseudo Buddhist.
Yeah.
Garbage nonsense. Yeah.
But I like the idea of looking at the intersection of corporate greed and religion. That sort of thing is well-worn territory in pretty much any genre you can think of, but there's a reason, and it's kind of it's because it's interesting. The art, I loved it, but Cody, like you were saying at the beginning, the world-building aspects of this were there. And in that regard, it reminded me of Saga, but without the characters that you immediately latch onto. I'm left feeling like, well, what's the point? So I might go back and revisit it I guess it's a miniseries. I didn't realize that after it wraps up. Because I have, unlike JJ, read some G. Willow Wilson that I really liked, and that was Kamala Khan, who is awesome. And I want to read more from her that is very enjoyable. She did a Vertigo series some years ago named Air about stewardesses and weird X-Files-ish shenanigans. I don't know, and then fell off the grid and then came back with Kamala Khan. So apparently she's really grown as a writer. That's really all I've got as far as Invisible Kingdom goes. Cody?
Yeah, I didn't realize that Air was her. I did read that actually way back when, but yeah, like you said, like there was such a long gap between that and then her reemergence, her kind of, I don't know, butterflying onto the scene. That yeah, wow. Might have to go back and reread that, see if it's any good, see if it holds up. Yeah, like you said, like that intersection between religion and corporation, that's a story that everyone is interested in. In 21st century, this is a big thing. So I mean, the seeds are there. It has a lot of potential. It's hard to make a perfect first issue, and they didn't. It happens.
Yeah, I mean, I do kind of want to say that this is probably the first time that we've all agreed on a book. Other than like maybe one other one. But I do want to say to the people who are watching or listening to this, I mean, you guys may love it. Let us know if you actually liked it. Give us your opinion. We never try to yuck somebody else's yum. It was just none of our yums this time. But yeah, let us know in the comment area if you read it and you liked it and what you liked about it.
I will say, I'm sorry, I'm going to throw my 2 cents in there. Everyone involved in this book is clearly trying. This isn't some crap book that was thrown together in order to make a quick buck by any way, shape, or form. And a lot of love and care went into it. So I hope that it does turn the corner to become something that I really, really want to go out of my way and read.
Yeah, totally fair. So unless there's anybody else with any final thoughts on Invisible Kingdom, why don't we move on to our final spotlight book? We're running a little bit short on time. Teen Titans 28. This is part 1 of the Terminus agenda. We've got a crossover between Deathstroke and the Teen Titans. In almost the exact opposite fashion of Invisible Kingdom, we have 2 writers here in Adam Glass and Priest, who are known for their character development, their ability to take characters and push them to new heights. So, I mean, this is not going to be your typical Teen Titans smash, Deathstroke smash kind of crossover. I think this is going to be a real thinking man's crossover, right? Like, I think this is going to be rooted in a lot of morality, ethics, which has been the hallmark of Priest's Deathstroke thus far. So, in this issue, the Titans have decided Deathstroke has to get taken down. Robin's got his ill-thought-out supervillain prison underneath their compound. He's got, Brother Blood's down there, Gizmo's down there, Black Hand, or Black Mask. A couple other baddies that they've taken down along the way. They've been sticking them in jail and saying, no more letting them out. No more justice system. We're just going to put them in a box and hold on to them forever.
What's important to note that only Damian and Red Arrow know about this prison. It's a big secret.
Right. Big secret. They've kept it from all of the characters in the book that don't have names or that are new and nobody really knows. Jin, Crush, Roundhouse, and then Kid Flash, Wallace West, not Ginger Wally. So yeah, they're all in the dark at the beginning of this. The kids go out. They set up an elaborate ruse at a barber shop, which had a great moment with it. Like everyone in that barber shop, Marv, George, Len, call outs to some of the all-time greats, which I thought was really cool. Nice moment. Bernard Chang on art. My bad. I forgot to say that. But so yeah, they set up this elaborate ruse. Jin's got this big, illusion going on, and Deathstroke isn't phased one bit. He's like, nope, you said the wrong thing. You smell wrong. You farted when you should have burped. Like, everything's wrong. Nothing worked. And then somehow still the Titans take him down, throw him in the prison, and it's there in the prison that they're interrogating interrogating him about the Other, which if you haven't been following Teen Titans, you probably haven't heard of the Other before. Don't worry, you're not missing anything. We really don't know anything about the Other. Some mysterious, like, Mockingbird Secret Six kind of guy, where Lex Luthor was Mockingbird and he was orchestrating the whole Secret Six thing. Sorry, spoiler alert, but it's like 15 years later, so I don't care. So they've got him down there. They're interrogating him. He's like, blah, blah, blah. I'm only here because you want me to be here, or because I want to be here, which is probably true. And then Kid Flash bursts in and is like, what? A prison? What's going on here? And that's kind of your general premise for the way this 6-part crossover is going to play out, where obviously there are things that are happening in both books, Deathstroke and Teen Titans, that are not even really in a morally gray area. Like, they're really kind of shifting into a morally black area. And all of these things, I think, are going to come to a head, and we'll see some major shakeup in both books as far as how they conduct business, how things move forward. I'd like to finish this one with Matt, since I'm the current reviewer on Deathstroke. He's the current reviewer on Teen Titans. So we will be discussing this at length throughout. But why don't we go to JJ, who has not been reading Teen Titans, but has been getting caught up on Deathstroke.
Yes. The issue was fine. It was more fine than Invisible Kingdom, but less fine than Spider-Man Life Story. I will say that. So, as Cody said, I haven't been reading Teen Titans at all, ever. So, and since we're running short on time, I'm going to go quick. Damian has a prison? What? It's nonsense. Damian's gone from, some apex predator from the Assassin world to Lockup from Dixon's 90s Bat series. Plus, I understand that, he's got money, but how is he financing this without Batman knowing? He's feeding and clothing and imprisoning 50 people.
Yeah, he's they've explained it in some earlier issues. So
okay.
It's there. It's not in a total vacuum.
Yeah. They took the time to explain who Deathstroke is, but not any of that. I know who Deathstroke is. The Deathstroke fight just seemed way too easy, which could follow into what Cody said about Deathstroke wanting to be captured by Damian, but why? I like the art for the most part. There were some really, really weird looking panels at some points, though. Close-ups of people's faces, Bernard Chang's always had issues with, I know. And there were some issues where people just look really strange. I really disliked Slade's use of pressure points on an alien. Who's to say what her vascular system looks like? Who's to say that a neck pinch would work on, Superman having a completely different physiology? That's nonsense, saying everyone's got pressure points on someone from a different species.
But he has thrown down with her father in the past. So presumably he knows where those pressure points are, or that they work, because of his experience with Lobo. And he says something to that effect.
He says everyone's got pressure points.
Right, but it does follow it up with Lobo. There's a panel.
It's still dumb. Is Wallace just outrage personified? Everywhere he goes, he's complaining, he's got problems. Even at the end, he's throwing a big... obviously, it's something that needs a fit, but all I've ever seen him do in any book I've ever seen him in, Flash, what have you, is complain about stuff and get all triggered on stuff out of nowhere.
He's mad that he was rendered obsolete when the real Wally West came back.
Yeah, last I saw, he was pitching a fit because his uncle was on the Suicide Squad and died. Everything I see with him is him pitching a fit. He only ever pitches a fit. The Other. Do we really need another shadowy organization pulling the strings from behind the scenes? There are so many that it could be that are established, and we're at, Underlife. We had an Underlife in Red Hood 6 months ago. Leviathan and Silencer. Like, in the last year, we've added like 3 or 4 and had a massive Cobra resurgence. Like, it's so many. I did like the callback to Arkham with Damian convincing the team that they needed to go after Deathstroke with the Doctor's daughter. That was pretty cool. I did like that they confirmed that Deathstroke is wearing the Icon suit again, which me and Cody were kind of gray on. I did notice one just pretty balls out convenient plot device, which was Roundhouse going to pieces when his suit got knocked down, which served to take Wallace away so that they could haul Deathstroke to Damian's jail. They wouldn't have been able to do that if Deathstroke was standing there.
Yeah, and that's been a recurring theme. Like, Wally, we need you to run so-and-so to the hospital. Wally, we need you to run so-and-so home so that they can keep this secret. Like, that has been something that's been happening over and over again. So it really fit if you've been following along. But if you haven't, it just looks like a convenient plot point.
Well, it would bother me if they did it every time then, too. It's...
but Wally's too dumb to notice.
Yeah, he's like, okay, I guess I can get there faster than you guys. All right, I'll be back. Hey guys, where'd the guy go? Oh, we sent him to jail. Oh, okay. Sounds good.
I was a bit distracted though, because this is like the first issue where we're actually figuring out more about what Roundhouse's powers are. Like, we find out he's a shapeshifter.
Yeah, Deathstroke called him a shapeshifter, which was interesting.
Yeah, and we find out his suit is keeping his shit together all the time. That's why he's wearing it all the time and stinks all the time. So, anyway.
Well, Derb, since you're popping up, that's all I got to say about that book. So why don't you go ahead and tell us what you thought?
Okay, sorry. I just I started out with reviewing.
You're good. You're good, man.
with reviewing this book, and I started right when this team formed. So I'm actually just still loving this book, like this run. Since what is it? Issue 20, issue 21, I'm not sure. I don't know. We talked about all the detail already. John hit a lot of the good points and the bad points. I still just find it really engaging and really interesting. The new characters, all 3 new characters, I really dig. So, let's just keep the ball rolling, Brian. I'm picking on you, Brian.
Sorry, my button wasn't working. I couldn't. When I clicked on it, it wasn't clicking. It was fine. No, I kind of agree with all what you guys are saying. I haven't been keeping up with the Teen Titans. I hate Damian. I think he's a little bitch. Like, that's that's where I am with him. Like, I am totally Team Deathstroke. I don't even care if he's crazy or if it's his daddy, wherever that ended up going off. It's fine. The art, I know, JJ, you said that the art was kind of iffy for you. It didn't bother me too much. I thought it was pretty decent. The story seems like I'll probably wait for a trade paperback to read the whole thing, but I'll definitely keep up with it. I think it's a decent story. And plus, I just want to see Damian get beat up. I feel really weird saying that, considering like he's 13. I'm a horrible person, but that's okay. I'm not taking back what I said. I'm just saying, like, I just knowingly admitting that I'm a horrible person, that I want to see a 13-year-old get his ass kicked by a Deathstroke. With that being said, that's kind of all I have with that one. Also, can I also mention, totally off topic, that since we're not like going by like any specific or particular order, that it's really stressful because you never know when you're going to be picked, and I kind of like it because I'm like, is it going to be me this time? Is it going to be me? Is it going to be Derbs? So that's my little...
It's like Russian roulette.
That vein in your forehead is throbbing very noticeably right now.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I guess it's kicking it over to me. I really enjoyed this issue. Wasn't blown away by it. I like just like you, Derbs. I've been really enjoying this run of Teen Titans. Cody, you and I both agree that it's the best since Jeff Johns' run, which was in and of itself the best since the early '80s with Marv and George. So I think that says something, especially considering that half the team is completely new characters. It takes a really talented writer to sell brand new characters, especially in 2019. We're all jaded and old now, and we don't want to see anything new because we've seen everything under the sun. But as for the issue itself, to get back to one of your points, JJ, with all of the various plot points that you didn't have any insight to from Teen Titans, like this makes the case for DC needing to do some kind of a recap page in their comics. Dan Didio refuses to do it. I don't understand why. It drives me absolutely insane. But I don't want to get off too much of a tangent on that. But one thing we didn't mention is that from the last story arc in Deathstroke itself, Slade Wilson may or may not be completely crazy right now. And that's not addressed in this issue at all, which I thought was weird. And maybe they'll get to it on down the line. This issue really focused more on the Titans rather than Deathstroke. But he may or may not have been seeing aliens, or he definitely thought that he was killing some invading aliens at the end of the last Deathstroke arc, Arkham. And he was actually just beating up and killing homeless people. So there's something going on with him, and that I was
who may or may not have been aliens.
They might have been aliens.
They might.
We don't know. They disappeared mysteriously before autopsies could be performed.
Yeah. So I was a little disappointed that wasn't addressed at all. But this is Christopher Priest. He's one of the tightest plotters in comics. Except when his books get canceled, which isn't his fault. Black Panther. So to me, yeah, I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed seeing all of these subplots with Damian in his prison and just his ego in keeping this, lying to his teammates and keeping this massive secret from them are all coming to a head. And I feel like at the end of this story, Damian might even be out of the Titans because clearly everything is going to be, all his dirty laundry is about to be brought out. So,
well, you got to have a Bat family member though. So was it going to be like spoiler?
Oh man, that would be awesome. Hey,
I'll take Tim Drake back in a heartbeat. Okay, best Robin ever.
He's on Young Justice. Spoiler.
He can be in two places.
Spoiler. Man, spoiler on Teen Titans will get me reading Teen Titans,
okay,
and I do not read Teen Titans. Come on, fingers crossed. We're gonna start tweeting at Adam Glass like after we're done.
Cool. That'll work for me. That's it, man. Know your Titans.
Yeah. So I mean that. So that was fun. I enjoyed the book. It was good. If you're interested in the characters, go buy it. If you're not interested in the characters, maybe not the greatest jumping on point, but whatever. It is what it is. So to wrap up our show, let's see. Let's check in. I'm going to go left to right based on how you are on my screen. And Brian, what did you read this week, and what are you excited for next week?
I feel like I read something big this week.
Court of Owls.
Yes. That was pretty good. I enjoyed it. I like the cover art. Greg does amazing art. It's creepy. At one point, I remember in the story, I was looking through somebody's guts and seeing two people have a conversation. This is the first time I think I read a Snyder book. Oh, no, it's not. So this is the first time I read a Snyder book that I liked in regards to Batman. When I first started reading Batman about 4 years ago, it was the story about where Batman doesn't even remember he was Batman, and there was like robots being Batman, and
Endgame.
yeah, whatever that stuff
Super
was.
heavy. Super heavy.
Yeah, that was
In the line story.
not my favorite time to start. Like that was probably one of the worst starting points for me. So this is the first time I read Snyder on Batman. I really liked it. It's horrible in the worst possible way. And when I say that, I mean that it's a scary type of book. Like if you read it, there's a lot of horror attached to it. H-O, not W-H. So it's a fun book. What I'm looking forward to, there's actually quite a few books that I was trying to determine just before I was called on which book there is. I mean, of course, I think everybody's going to say Detective 1000, which also I didn't know Heroes in Crisis was out this week either. And then I am looking, me personally, I think I am looking forward to, I don't know. There's so many good books out. I really like the Age of X-Men, the extremist one. So I'm gonna have to go with Avengers No Road Home because I think I'm reviewing it this week. This week. That's all. I forgot. Let's see. Who do I pick? Let's go with, as they all intensely stare at my little thing, I'm gonna go with Durbridge.
Revenge. I've been kind of in a void. I don't know what's coming out this week. Just with been having some health stuff, so I have not been paying attention. I haven't been to my LCS. I know they're sad. I know they've been relying on me for sustenance. But so I'll take my time to say this. It's not just that Damien has a jail. Damien, Jason, and Red Arrow have a jail. We just found out Red Arrow's been on it the whole time. So, and they're also in an old bat bunker that Batman's forgotten about. Like it's completely isolated from his network. So
wait, so we're hinging on Batman forgetting something? It's even worse.
It's just off his grid. It's just
No,
off his grid.
Batman doesn't forget things. He knows which pipe. He knows where this pipe leads. He goes, I'm going to cut this pipe because it's the water line to that apartment building. He's 6 blocks away from that apartment building. How could he possibly know that? But he forgot about a whole building? No.
Don't blame me, John Jack.
I'm not blaming you.
I'm just saying it's a little more complicated than just Damien has a jail. Just a little bit. But it doesn't mean, I mean, I've had this problem with it from the beginning. But, I mean, if it gets connected to the power grid, and blah, blah, blah. But the thing is that I actually really like Roundhouse now, which is weird because I didn't like him to start. I've loved Crush from the beginning, and Jin has become just actually the best of the three, slowly but surely. But now I actually really like Roundhouse, so that's pretty impressive. It's hard to sell one new character, let alone 3. It's ridiculous. All right, John.
Well, the obvious this week, as Brian said, that I'm looking forward to be Detective 1000, which is good. Gonna be good. I also am looking forward to Freedom Fighters number 4, which is also super duper good. Gonna be. I have to pretend like I didn't read these books like 3 days ago. Shazam. Shazam's out this week, and that's a lot of fun. Besides No Road Home for Marvel, Amazing Spider-Man randomly kind of turned it around with this Hunted arc, I feel. This is definitely the best it's been since Spencer came on. So I'm kind of interested to see where that's going, although I'm kind of cautiously apprehensive because Spencer has kind of burned us a couple times on starting arcs interestingly and then ending them poorly. As for what I've been reading, don't tell Cody, but I started Planetary. Uh, don't even say anything because he's gonna make sounds, and they're the worst sounds. Uh, yeah, Planetary. I also read some Golden Age Batman, some Tomb of Dracula, and some other things. Oh, I did, out of nowhere, decide to reread Bendis' Superman from the start to see if it reads any better in, like, essentially trade format. Because I randomly decided to reread Action 1000 and Man of Steel following, or to prep for Detective 1000, and I realized I liked Man of Steel a lot more, and I was wondering if I liked it better because it was weekly, so it had a momentum that his Superman series is not, being monthly. So I'm going to try reading it in a quicker sequence and see if it leaves me feeling any less annoyed than it did. So far, the answer is no. Who hasn't gone? Matt?
Yeah. So just real quick, that's almost always the case with Bendis because of the way he writes everything decompressed. It reads better than the whole story in one sitting. So as for what I've been reading, as I winnow down my massive stack of unread back issues that I got for a quarter, I checked out Keith Giffen, Alan Grant, and Simon Beasley's first Lobo miniseries. And it's a product of its time.
It's a 80s Keith Giffen book, or 90s.
Yeah, it was 91.
Yeah.
And it's, it's fine for what it is. It's just they killed Lobo so hard with overexposure in the 90s. And that's hardly, that it's hard for me, even, 25 years removed from all that, to look back on it and not feel that groan inside. Like, this guy again, but whatever. It's still fun. He's still running around with his elementary school teacher's legless body. He had to bring a bounty in on this most hated woman, and with the caveat that he can't kill her. So whatever. The sequel was better because he killed a bunch of gods and went to heaven, and God was laughing about it, and it was great. But what I'm looking forward to next week, I'm gonna give it up to Chip Zdarsky, since we've already talked him to death this week. He's got his Invaders #3 and Daredevil #3 all in the same week, which I think his Daredevil is off to a really great slow burn start. I was a little iffy on the first issue, but the second issue really snapped things together for me. Daredevil is far and away my favorite Marvel character. So I hold it to a very high standard because it should be, damn it. It's Daredevil. So that's me. Cody?
Well, from your favorite Marvel character to mine, what I'm looking forward to this week is Captain America #9 from Ta-Nehisi Coates. And we got Kubert art on this arc. I don't know if it really fits all that well, but it's still really good art. And the layouts are stellar. So I'm really looking forward to seeing more Steve in prison. I think this arc has been really fascinating. I didn't read anything this past week. I've been hacking my way through stuff from the previous week, trying to get caught up. Fell a little bit behind. My wife just came home from deployment. So that's pretty awesome. So hopefully next week I'll have something better to report that I was burning through and binge reading. So for now, let's kick it back to Brian to fade us to black.
All right. As always, you can check us out on Twitter at CWatchersShow. You can always check us out on Facebook, SoundCloud, podcast, and Spotify at The Comic Watchers Show. As always, you can check us out on comic-watch.com. That's it for this week. I don't even remember what number we're on. I think episode 24-ish, maybe.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. but we are in a rare position where we already know what we're talking about next week. And that's Detective Comics 1000.
Come back for 1000 in 7 days.
Come back for us. Yes, a week after it's released. And yeah, we're going to have a blast. It's going to be a big Batman episode.
The funny thing is, I knew that we were, but I totally forgot about it. Like, I was like looking through the list right before this to see what we could discuss. Yes, it will be Batman. Yes, check us out next week as always. All right, bye.